Welcome to the Solid Verbal. And now, Dan and Ty.
Dan Rubenstein!
It's good.
What is going on at North Carolina?
What is Brittany doing? It's a good question, Ty. It's an excellent way to open this Mike Patrick show. Yeah.
What is going on at North Carolina? We have been making jokes. We've got the sound clip. I'll play the sound clip in a little bit. I'm sure plenty of times in this episode, but we wanted to bring in our good friend, Michael Felder, someone who played at North Carolina, someone who's still connected to the North Carolina program, to just get his vibe on what exactly is going on in Chapel Hill. We are recording this intro. We will record this outro, having known much of what Michael said, because we recorded that before, and we'll bolt it all together in the way that we do here on the show. I can tell you a lot of speechlessness throughout the course of our conversation with Michael.
Yeah.
I get the sense that he's a bit frustrated, a bit curious, has many of the same questions that Dan and I have. Clearly, when they brought Bill Belichick on, that was a very big news story, not just for college football people, but for NFL folks, just for people who follow sports as a whole. Bill Belichick, arguably the greatest coach in the history of the NFL, going to college, coaching UNC. It was a big deal. Nobody really had a great sense for how that was going to go. Clearly, college football is a different game. The structure around college football is much, much different than I think we see in the NFL. That goes without saying. How would he adapt? How would he adjust? How would he put his stamp on all things North Carolina football? We are, I think, starting to learn a little bit of that. I don't know if it's all great. Going to get Michael's impression of what's going on.
Yeah. You have extensive thoughts about, I guess it's his girlfriend, right? Jordan?
I do not have extensive thoughts about any of this. No. I'm not going there. I'm going to go there. I'm going to go there as little as I have to, but for whatever reason, yes, that has become part of the narrative now. And we don't do a whole lot of relationship talk on this here podcast.
Let's change that, Ty. Let's change that here today.
Might be a little bit of a zag.
Yeah.
Occasionally speaking, as we get into this with Michael Felder, go and check him out. It's felder.substack.com. He also did some draft coverage. Maybe we can start with some of the draft coverage that he did.
Definitely.
And compare and contrast what he has to say with what our good friend Nate Tice from Yahoo said when we brought him on prior to the draft.
Yeah. I can't wait for North Carolina's season this year.
Let's save this for the back end of the conversation. Okay.
Okay. Fair enough.
Hit follow, hit subscribe. If you're new here, we appreciate, of course, having you around. We're going to be doing 2 episodes a week all throughout the off season. Verballers.com, VERBALLERS.com. If you want to join our Patreon community, get access to these episodes without the ads, bonus content. We're going to cut part of this episode and make it one big happy bonus episode that drops on Thursday out on the Patreon, since we had some content that veered into corners that we had discussed on previous bonus episodes. So I think it'll be a nice little fit there. You get access to that if you go to verballers.com. Of course, we got a big sprawling Discord community as well, Dan.
Yes. Agree. And with that, Ty, it is our pleasure to bring on Michael Felder. You've seen him all sorts of places. You've seen him at Bleacher Report. Just did draft stuff for Bleacher Report. Yes, in New York.
Yes, I did. I was in Chelsea, if you will.
Of course. Yeah. Good eating neighborhood. And check out his Substack, where he is writing about all things football and, I don't know, gardening, food, whatever's on his mind. It's
swimming.
Yeah. Nobody knows this, but Felder is basically as sleek and hairless a swimming god as it comes. And people don't know. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, it's funny that you say that. No. Hang on. No,
okay.
Don't walk it back.
Floor's yours.
I am almost hairless. Like, people
is that true?
That is a very true thing. Like, I will show you my armpits if you want to see them. I am almost completely hairless. Like, I am truly like.
Is this intentional? We're seeing it. Oh my gosh.
That's what my armpit looks like. Like, it is very like I don't have hair like on my body, except for this right here.
On his chin. He's pointing, if you're listening to this, he's got a substantial beard.
Yes.
Okay. So what we're doing, this is theater of the mind. So if you're picturing Michael Felder right now, do not picture a hairy back. Do not picture
No.
a chest reminiscent of like a
Nope.
Syrian god or something.
No.
This is Felder physically now, I guess.
Yeah.
So Michael Felder's been writing and talking about and on camera with all things football, NFL, college, played college football.
Mm-hmm.
Here's my first question to you. We don't talk a lot about the draft stuff, but as somebody who does draft stuff from the college football side of things, because there are a lot of people who cover the NFL draft from the side of like, here's what the Bengals need, or like the Cowboys cap hit restricts them from blah, blah, blah. From the college perspective, did you have any big picture takeaways?
Yeah. My biggest takeaway from the draft, like obviously everyone's going to talk about Shadur and that whole situation. I got into a huge fight with one of my best friends actually today. That's why I was running a little bit late.
It's okay.
We got to a huge fight about Shadur, that's another conversation for a different day probably. But my biggest takeaway was Texas. And Texas in the draft got a bunch of guys drafted. How did they get those guys drafted? Oh my goodness. Steve Sarkisian. Who did you work for before you got the Texas job? Nick Saban. Oh, what did Nick Saban teach you? Go out and get huge humans to go play football. Same thing with Ole Miss. Ole Miss got a bunch of guys drafted. They're huge dudes. So I think that what we're seeing, and we're watching it to transition from the NFL back to college football, if you get big guys, you're going to make things happen. And we saw it with Wisconsin. We saw it with Iowa. We saw it obviously with Penn State as well. Just shout out to Utah. Like Penn State also had some big dudes get picked. So it's just very clear. If you're bigger, faster, stronger, it's going to help you in college football. And then obviously that translates to the NFL.
Ty, do you have a breaking news sound you can play for having bigger, faster, stronger dudes?
Not off
Michael
the.
Felder
Oh no, wait, I do. Here,
yeah,
there we go.
There it is. Thank you. Were there skill sets? If it's not just size and traits, were there skill sets at any position where you're like, oh, tight ends are now being asked to do this and it's getting those guys drafted. Edge rushers are now looking like this and it's getting those guys drafted. Is there a position where you saw skills shine more than perhaps they used to?
Yeah, and let me interject for a second, Dan, because we had
Please.
Nate Tice on the show from Yahoo before the draft to get some of his predictions and some of his thoughts from watching so much tape. And one of the questions I always like to ask him is about trends, things that he sees in the college game, wondering just how that might impact the NFL moving forward. Do you detect any of those trends that, to Dan's point, jumped out to you?
Yeah, I think that I think there's, if I would put it on, let's just take those two positions, right? Tight ends and edge rushers, which by the way, when we started doing this, when we were all like little independent doing our thing, we should just call them hybrid linebackers.
Right.
Now they're called edge. Okay. Got it. Edge. All caps, edge.
Edge, always.
And so what I'll say is with the edge rushers, what we're seeing is this demarcation between guys that are stand-up, hand-down edge rushers and guys that are 5 techniques that can kick down to a 4-eye, and sometimes if it's 3rd and 12, you can kick down to a 3. So we see that. That's a trend. The other one is guys that are tight ends, and Tyler Warren, for example, maybe the main example, is a guy that can do anything. And I hate saying this, and it feels so bad, and I hate it. And I hate it so much, but he's like, if you put 15, 20 pounds on Aaron Hernandez.
Sure.
And it's bad because he's a bad man. He is a bad man.
Right.
Or was a bad man, I guess, now, because he.
Yep.
But what Warren's able to do is he can take a direct snap. He can take a shovel pass. He can flex out for you. And so we're seeing that versatility, but also at the tight end position. And I guess the thing for me from a football standpoint is we call him an F, right? Usually when you think about a tight end, you think about like a Heath Miller, and you think about a Y. That's a Y.
Right.
So he's a Y. He lines up in line. He's helping you with the run game. But what we're seeing are a lot of move tight ends, guys like Evan Ingram, guys like, again, Warren, guys that can move, that can flex out. And for folks that, I don't know, how deep people want to get into football, but when you talk personnel packages, if you can play out of a 12 personnel package, that means that other team, the defense, they're going to have a full, like their base package in. If you can play 13, that means you're going to have like your heavy personnel in. And then all of a sudden you spring those guys out. And what we're seeing is teams get really interesting and get really kind of eclectic with that type of personnel package. And so all of a sudden, even though you have 3 tight ends in the game, or you have 21 personnel, where you have 2 running backs and 1 tight end, that makes base personnel, that makes base people really important. And then all of a sudden you spring them out into empty formations, or you spring them out into a 1 back and then tight ends all spread out. And now you all of a sudden you got a linebacker lined up over a tight end, and you're like, yo, no, this is bad. I don't want to do this. So that was one of the trends. And then the running backs, they're very, they're HOTTOGO. These guys are hot to go. Like it's you got to figure out what you're going to do with these guys. And the running backs for the draft are so, hang on. I got it right here. There we go. Sorry, I had to grab my notebook.
Get your notebook.
I had to get my notebook. These guys it's wild what they can do. Like what you're going to get out of Travion Henderson versus Quinson Judkins, 2 guys that play for the same team, is wildly disparate. You throw in Parrish, you throw in Jordan James, Jaden Blue from Texas is amazing. Like that, you're going to get so many different things from all these guys. LaQuint Allen from Syracuse, he's mad tall. Like, what are you going to do? So yeah, teams are finding ways to create problems, and I do love it.
I mean, I guess that this is probably a rhetorical question, but there's a case to be made that, well, the ways that college athletes are training, the ways that they are being recruited out of high school, things have changed that maybe coaches are going for more versatile players that can do all of these things. Is that what you're seeing? Or is it more the case of we're going to get these guys on campus? We know they're athletic. We don't know fully what they can do yet, but we've got a system that we think is going to be pretty diverse in the different roles that we assign to these players. And maybe that like versatility is more a result of the product as opposed to, just raw athleticism. Does that make sense?
Yeah, what you said makes sense for sure. And I think there's a lot of coaches that are doing exactly what you said. I also, to go back to Sark in Texas, I think that studying under Nick Saban and Nick Saban studying under Bill Belichick and Bill Belichick studying under Bill Parcells, they have a very defined role, right? Like they have this very like specific thing that they do. And I don't know if you guys have ever seen this, but Saban had a chart that was height, weight, speed.
Oh, right. Like arm length, hand size. Yeah. Like he's not going to recruit a corner under 6 feet.
He's not going to, exactly. He's not going to recruit that guy. So there's that. But then there's also, this is where the transfer portal comes in. There are guys that show that they can do it a little bit. And how did we get Cam Ward as the number 1 pick? It's not because he went to Incarnate Word. It's because he did this here and then leveled up. It's like video games, right? Like you level up and then you get this and then you do this and then you go to Washington State. And then next thing you know, you're at Miami and you do this. And so I think there's this combination, and it's like jamming all these pieces together where someone has a system and we stick to this system. And then there's people that are able to like, I don't know, it's like a Fibonacci sequence, right? Like where you're just trying to make it work and everyone is trying to do it. And like Lane Kiffin is a great example of it. Ole Miss had a ton of players get drafted. JJ Pegues, what are we doing? JJ Pegues, he was one of my favorite players in the draft. But he would have never fit into one of those boxes for Alabama with Nick Saban. So he He goes to Ole Miss. Lane Kiffin says, okay, let's make this work. And we're also going to let you play a little bit of offense. But then you think about Deion Sanders, Coach Prime. Oh, man. He's not like this guy. He's not paint by number. Nick Saban was paint by number, and he always painted a beautiful picture. Deion Sanders is like, hey, man, if you can do it, let's do it. And he got a couple guys picked. And obviously Travis Hunter, we'll see what happens with him and what happens with playing on both sides of the ball. I think is a terrible idea personally, but we'll see what happens. But he's a good coach, and those kids want to play for him. I mean, I'm living in it right now with respect to Bill Belichick. And I just got off, I told you guys before we got on the show, but I told you, I got into a huge argument with one of my best friends in the world about Belichick and UNC and what's going to happen and how it works. And we both played football at UNC, and neither one of us know what's
your
going to happen.
thoughts. Take a deep breath.
Deep breath. Need the
Look
deep
out
breath.
into the great unknown.
And listen, if at any point, Michael, we get a little too close to the bone, just tell me. I've got this at the ready.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about this.
If you need it.
That's a huge part of it.
Just let me know. All right, I'm here for you.
That's a huge part of it. And I think the defense will be good because he does find a way to create out of just like he's like you got your uncle that's a mechanic and that can put things together to create a way to make sure that your lawnmower still goes. But as someone who's a part of this community, it's very interesting to see how we call them blue hairs, and how the blue hairs handle him is going to be really interesting because they want access. Mac Brown's very good
And to be
at that.
clear, blue hairs, my assumption is old money behind the scenes. Yeah.
Yes. And so that's going to be very interesting. But I think he's a good teacher of football.
But is that what this job is?
But it's, I don't. That's a great question because I don't know. Because it also feels like this is how do I get my kid a job? Which, look, we're parents. It's like you want to get your kid a job.
Sure.
You want to get your kid a job. Like I want my kid's
To be
a
clear,
swimmer.
you're talking about his son.
To get my
There's
kid on
different
the
angles you could look at.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
His son. Yeah. His son. Yeah. Yes. His son. And he tried to just do it like the coach in waiting way, and it was like, well, we can't do that in this state. We're a will to work state. You can't just like.
But hold on. I'm gonna stop you right here. I get what you're saying, but do you care? Do you care as a former player, as a UNC alum? Do you care about him getting his son a job? Because that's where it seems like a lot of the strife is. There's that, obviously. Right, which I think kind of came across clear as day to those of us from afar watching this, like, oh, he's just finding a way to sneak Steve Belichick in through the back door. Okay, there's that. Clearly, there's been a bit of a sideshow lately, which I'm sure we'll get into here at some point in this conversation. Like all of that stuff seems to have overshadowed the actual on-field thing, which could be, hey, he's a great mechanic. He can put a defense together. I think they'll be better. All that. Like, does it bother you that more people aren't talking about that part of it?
There's not much to talk about, man.
Okay.
Honestly, and I'll be honest, it reminds me of me.
Go on.
And when I say that, so what I'm saying is like, I'll never forget my sophomore year of college. I was like, oh, I should be close to starting this year. I didn't, obviously. If I was starting in college, I probably wouldn't be talking to you guys right now. I'd be like, hanging out on the beach with like my model wife. But no, it's one of my teammates, Gerald Sensabaugh, played for the Cowboys for a decade. Still holds the combine record, 46.
Wow.
Vertical.
Damn.
Yeah. And we used to watch film together, and I was like, yeah, but if you do this and you do it, and he's like, oh, football, big dog. Football. He's like, but you're like, what do you call it? He called me a Toyota. He called me a Celica, or he called me a Prelude or something. He's like, and you're never going to be on the track with Ferraris.
It hurts.
And that's what we're dealing with right now is like, I think Belichick, he's got mentally, for sure, he is like, from a football standpoint, he's a Ferrari. I think his son's a Prelude.
Wow.
Oh no.
And he's like, he's trying to get him into F1. What is he going to do there? But he's trying to find a way to get him into F1, and it's not going to be the same. So it's going to be really interesting to see how this shakes itself out. And again, for our state, so for people that don't know, in the state of North Carolina, for a state job, you have to post that job. You got to post the job. Job's got to get posted. And they have to interview people. They can't just give that job away. And so we'll see what happens. And then to go to your point, Ty, and I know you have the clip queued up, but man, that CBS interview, and to talk with respect to my teammates, like a couple of them went to the spring game and they were all like, dude, hang on. They didn't go to the spring game. They went to the final spring practice, and multiple texts from them that just were like, we left early. It was good to see the boys. That's what we call each other. It was good to see the boys, but we left early because this is like, what are we doing? So I don't know what this looks like. I don't know how they fix it. I don't know, man. Shout out to my man, Kevin Donnelly, who's trying to kind of hold things together because he's the guy that's in charge of like the messaging to the letterman.
And what is the reaction? I mean, did they leave early because they
didn't see anything?
There was just nothing. It was fluff.
Nothing. And it was fluff. It was nothing. And it wasn't nothing like Ole Miss spring game is nothing, but it's fun. They were like, it wasn't fun. Like it was nice. The tailgate was nice.
Sure. Right.
The tailgate was fun.
That's always the best part of the spring game for the fans.
But it was like, they were just like, we're not like, show me something. And maybe that's Belichick, who is a close to the vest guy. I work with, I used to work with Chris Sims. And then I got a teammate, Ronnie McGill, who also worked for him, who also works for Bill O'Brien, who was like, this guy doesn't like people. He's not going to like shaking hands and holding babies. Like, that's not his thing. And so he's not doing the stuff that Mac Brown would have done at a spring game. He's not doing the stuff that Lane Kiffin does at his spring game, where they have like the basketball hoop and they have the races and the whole deal. This was a practice. It was a practice. And so they were like, let's go to Pantano Bob's, let's go to Dead Mule. We don't need to, like, I've seen an individual period before. Like, I played in the NFL.
Okay. So is what North Carolina and what they're putting out into the world right now, which is that CBS interview, which is, stories surrounding the head coach and his relationship, is it not just sort of like fully undermining the entire appeal of bringing in Bill Belichick? That like the intent of the conversation and bringing in Bill Belichick is like, look at this guy, capital G guy, who's been through the fire, who has been with, you name it, Teddy Bruschi, Tom Brady, all these, these legends. Mike Vrabel, sure, right? That he is like the modern godfather of football. And the story has completely shifted to what he's doing on Instagram and the different copyrights that his lady friend is filing for. And like, it fully undermines the hire on a certain level publicly, does it not?
I told you, I got into a fight with one of my best friends in the world. I got into a fight with one of my biggest friends in the world, he and I, because he's like, it's still good. And I'm like, come on, man. I don't know if this is still good. He's like, people are talking about us. And I was like, yeah, but not in a good way. This isn't a good way. Like, nobody's talking. Like, no one hang on. Let me ask you. I flip you for real. Flip you for real. Who's the starting quarterback at UNC?
Max Johnson?
I guess it could be Max Johnson.
If he's healthy?
I don't know. He's
never healthy.
It could be the Gio Lopez, the South Alabama transfer.
Right. So we're not even talking about that, right? Who's the best defensive player?
Well, it probably was Bo Atkinson was in that conversation. He just transferred to Ohio State.
So again, so we're not talking about the team, right? We're not talking about football.
Right.
We're talking about a CBS interview. We're talking about a not great spring final practice. And we're talking about his girlfriend. That's not great.
And you got to recruit against Miami.
So,
Got to recruit against Clemson.
You got to recruit against NC State. People don't realize that. NC State, listen, NC State puts their nose to the grindstone and they go after it. And this is something that if we're being honest, I think NC State feels slighted by this being covered versus them being covered. And I think they're going to be an angry team this year.
Duke went out and spent on a quarterback. Like
Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech just had two guys go, and I know it was on day 3 of the draft, but they had two guys go kind of back to back in the NFL draft that I think are probably going to be 8-year NFL players.
For your consideration on any podcast player, search Solid Verbal, find us and hit follow or subscribe. It's just that easy.
So, Michael, I saw kind of to your point, I think his name was Ted Johnson, formerly played for Belichick. I'm not sure the exact medium that he conveyed his thoughts here, but he was like, they got to get rid of Belichick. This has gone far enough. They got to get rid of him. It sounds like you are not feeling great about the direction of the discourse here with respect to UNC football, but like where does this end, and what types of signals have you picked up from your group chats and whatnot among people who have played for this program? What is the general sentiment about where this goes next, where this should go next to like maybe restore hope?
So I'm going to take you through the timeline.
Please.
I was one of the first people. I knew that this was going to happen. And
the girlfriend thing? You knew that this was
No. Like I'm going all the way back to when UNC had no coach.
They move on from that.
The Belichick thing is going to happen. So I'm here. I'm up here. Okay? I knew this was going to happen. I called a bunch of my friends and I talked to folks. Should have called you guys, I guess, huh? But I knew. I told people it was going to happen. They're like, it's not going to happen. I was like, it's going to happen. It's about to happen. It's happening right now. They're in talks right now. It's going to happen.
By the way, even before that, an all-time great Mac Brown, like George Costanza attempt of like, all right, I've decided I'm going to come back. And the school saying, actually,
yes. Okay, exactly. Mac Brown tried to quit.
Yeah, he did.
He tried to quit. He was like, hey, you know what? I don't think I'm doing a good job. I'm done. Right. And then they were like, no, you can't quit. And then he was like, all right, I'm coming back. And they were like, no,
not that either.
But I knew this was going to happen. Then, so I'm up here. I'm all the way up high. Then it happens. And I'm like, I talked to Chris Sims. I talked to my buddy Ryan. I talked to them and they're like, this is going to be really hard because it's right around signing day. And I'm like, oh, dude. He's not going to like this. And then they hire, what is it, Michael Lombardi, right?
Yep.
I'm like, okay, so you got somebody else that's going to do this so you don't have to do it. Okay, I'm back up. I'm not all the way up, but I'm back up. Signing day happens. Portal happens. I'm like, okay, they got some guys from Minnesota. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, what a ride.
And then the final spring practice happens, and I'm listening to my teammates, and I was going to go because my daughter's never been to Chapel Hill.
Okay.
It's 2.5 hours away. She's been to Michigan State where my wife went to school. She's been there multiple times.
It's time.
She's never been to Chapel Hill. Spring final practice happens. I'm down here.
Yeah.
Girlfriend at spring happens. I'm off the screen now.
You are.
CBS interview happens. Let me see if I can do this.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
He's lowering his seat for people listening in the non-visual medium. Yeah.
So I'm like, oh no. So this is gonna be a wild ride. Again, I think he's a very good football coach. I think he could be very good, and that's the thing. That's the argument that my friend and I got in. My friend, by the way, my friend played for 4 years for the Green Bay Packers.
Mm-hmm.
He, like, when we talk about football, we usually are in lockstep, and this was one where we were just completely divergent.
He thinks it's going to be what? What is the divergence?
He thinks that the idea is that if you want to learn how to be in the NFL, this is a guy you can learn from.
Right.
Which is, I agree with that. Right. Totally agree. However, if he's not going to play ball with everybody that's going to be in Keenan Stadium, if he's not going to play ball with the people that go into the Blue Lounge, with the people that are Blue Zone, excuse me, if he's not going to go out into the Dean Dome and talk to the do you guys know that we have like Barca loungers in our stadium?
No, but it makes sense.
Like in the Dean Dome, there are like lazy boys.
Okay. For what purpose?
Like for the old donors, they're
right.
like, it's more. I don't want to sit in a stadium seat.
I believe they're called blue hairs. Michael, did I pick that up correctly?
Blue hairs like their Barcas.
Yeah. Like, are you kidding me? They're like, yeah, they have like recliners in the state, like, it's insane. And if he's not gonna play ball, like, and I guess Lombardi can do all that, and he's the one that does it. But the reality of it is these people want FaceTime with him,
right?
And so it's going to be really interesting to see what this looks like and how it works. Can he make it work? Absolutely. Is he going to have to give a little more of himself to it? For sure. And that's what we're waiting on to see. And I guess we're going to get to the season and then we'll find out.
How does this circus compare to the circus you thought you were getting?
It's a good question. Ty, that's a really good question.
Every now and again, I have one. I
blind squirrel.
Because a lot of what you're describing is, I think, the circus that, most people expected. He's an older coach. He's obviously incredibly accomplished. There should be no question whatsoever about whether the guy knows football. Clearly getting him on the staff, being able to recruit, getting Bill Belichick to recruit players to come to your school, that you would think that would work to their favor, right? There was always this question about how is he going to adapt to the recruiting game, NIL, the transfer portal. Okay, so they put someone in place, Michael Lombardi, maybe he can handle that. I don't know, but it feels to me like it came almost out of left field, the whole side thing with his girlfriend taking on some kind of leadership role. No one's exactly sure
what. Hard Knocks thing that got scratched last second. Yeah.
Right. Like that side of it, I have to assume, as somebody in your shoes who's played it and, has a lot of passion for the program still, that's the part that I think would probably get in my craw the most. Not that, Bill Belichick isn't allowed to have a personal life, but it just did not seem at the time he was hired that would be something we'd be talking about.
You thought you might get ring camera shirtless, right? The morning after. You knew that was on the table.
Not talking
oh my
about
God.
Not talking about this. Man.
I honestly, to answer your question, I think and I have no problem saying this. UNC is we are, and I'm not separating myself from this. We are a very buttoned up group. We're fuddy-duddy, like we are, that's who we are. They call us wine and cheese. But part of wine and cheese is accepting or entertaining it's more entertaining the person that's over there. Hey, no, we have plenty of wine and plenty of cheese.
Sure.
Come over.
Right.
And Belichick is like a guy that like has his case of like Natty Light, and he's like, this is mine.
Got Lunchables. Yeah.
Don't touch it. This is me. It's for me. It's for me by myself.
Right.
And if you don't want to sit on our blanket, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you don't want to be a part of our picnic, that becomes a problem. And so I'm very curious to see how long this works, because I think about this over the course of working in the industry, but also going to school there. Matt Doherty did a really good job of embracing in terms of that wine and cheese. It wasn't a good basketball coach,
Right.
but he understood what he had to do. This is a guy that was roommates with Michael Jordan. Like he understood it.
Right.
He understood the assignment. Dean Smith, a guy that Phil Ford, like, boom. I'll never forget. And this is, God, I had not thought about this until y'all brought this up. Now you hear my voice now?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like Phil Ford spoke at my church.
Sure.
When he was assistant for Dean Smith, and Phil Ford spoke at my church, and he talked to us, and he talked to my grandma, and I'll never forget. Phil Ford's one of my grandma's favorite basketball players of all time. But that was like that fellowship that you get. And I don't know if we're going to get that from Belichick. And then Mac Brown, same thing. Mac Brown, awesome.
He was born for that role twice. Yeah.
Yeah, twice. There's a guy named Kenny Browning. Kenny Browning, oh my God, one of the greatest coaches in the history of college football. Kenny Browning. You're talking to a walk-on who didn't play much. And Kenny Browning knew my high school, knew every kid that went to UNC and played football from my high school.
Wow.
And that's the atmosphere that the Blue Hairs, as we mentioned, that's what they like. They like that. They like to know that you know. I get a text every year on my birthday. I get a text from Gunnar Brewer. Wow. Gunnar Brewer, I believe, is now at West Virginia, but Chad Scott's at West Virginia. Gunnar, I think, is at Louisville. Chad Scott, though, texts me as well on my birthday. Chad Scott and I played together at UNC. Gunnar Brewer will text me on my birthday, and he asks me how my parents are doing, and he remembers their names. Like that whole situation.
Very UNC, yeah.
It's very UNC, and it's a family situation. Like that whole the Carolina way, I think it's kind of part of my French, but I think it's kind of bullshit. But because they threw a bunch of my friends under the bus when we were going through the NCAA allegations, which would have never been a problem now. Just give a couple kids some chargers and we're done.
Right.
Like Dodge Chargers, not like iPhone chargers. But yeah.
Sorry, I've been thinking about Bill Belichick's meal that he's keeping for himself, and I'm looking up now to see if his girlfriend tried to trademark Lunchabills.
That's not bad, Dan.
That's pretty good.
Actually good. That's actually very good.
Lunchabills, maybe some sawdust and tepid water. That's all you need. Yeah.
Pretty much, yeah.
All you need. Next question.
And some Natty Lights.
Some Natty Light. Yeah.
But no, we used to see Roy Williams on his jog during the day, and he would talk to us.
Sure.
I don't know that that's going to be Bill Belichick.
I can tell you it's not going
I
to
don't
be
think
Bill
it's gonna
Belichick. In case you're wondering, I can tell you he's going to do one of these.
Not talking about this.
No, not talking about it.
And then you throw in the girlfriend part, and I'm not here to shame anyone's kink, man.
No.
And now they've decided we're going to do this, and what are we going to do? We're hiring Bill Belichick, and then they were like, hang on, what? This wasn't a part that we thought about. So it's going to be really, I don't know. It's going to be wild, man. They
didn't ask for references.
Yeah. Well, they asked for references.
Okay.
But the references that they got were football.
Professional, not personal.
Right. It's a Nick Saban. It's a Bill Parcells. It's all that stuff. You get these references and those work.
Yeah.
What you don't realize is this guy's going to be once he's going to be out there doing yoga with a 25-year-old.
Yeah.
And it's not, I'm not saying it's bad. Just for the record, just so people know, I'm not saying it's bad. I'm saying this is not what they were expecting. So when, Suzanne from Mebane, her and her husband have been given, $50,000 to UNC every year.
Mm-hmm.
Suzanne shows up and has to talk to a 25-year-old at the scholarship dinner. She's going to be like, what is happening?
Mm-hmm.
That's the part that I think is going to be really interesting.
Fair enough. There's a new Bill Belichick has released a statement related to his
No.
viral CBS interview.
Don't. Please, no. Why is this happening while we're recording? No.
It's
Better get your
paragraphs.
friend on the horn, Michael.
Oh, my God.
There's a breaking news update.
Are you kidding? Oh, my God. I'm getting text. Are you kidding me? Is this serious?
It's on UNC Office of Official University Communications.
Oh, my gosh. No.
It's nothing too scandalous. It was just that it wasn't representing the tone of the interview and blah, blah, blah.
I bet it was.
Oh, my gosh.
I bet it was.
Yeah.
No.
Selective edited clips and stills from just a few minutes of the interview suggest a false narrative that Jordon was attempting to control the conversation, which is simply not true.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
This sounds like how I have to talk to my wife, or one of my wife with her friends, and they're like, I was like, I don't think that they were trying to be mean to you, but the reality was this, and so here's what's going on, and you're like, what are we? Oh no! And this is your football program.
This is your head football coach, Michael Felder. Thank you very much for your time. It's felder.substack.com. Check him out when he appears for Bleacher Report, for all sorts of stuff. Michael, thank you very much for your time.
Yes, sir.
All right, there you go. Michael Felder, he doesn't know what he thinks either. Nobody knows what to think about this.
No. I think, honestly, the way I phrase that is the closest to figuring out how I feel about it, which is you hire Bill Belichick for experience, for, having been there and worked when solved so many different kinds of problems, right? Won so many different games in so many different ways. And you bring that to North Carolina, the college level. He obviously had the connection, I think, through his dad at North Carolina. So there's this emotional piece to it. And this is how he sort of wants to go out. Obviously, he's 70 years old, something like that. This is how he wants to sort of finish out the illustrious football coaching career, and has had some public showings in the relationship department. I brought up the Ring camera footage of him exiting a house, I think in Boston, without a shirt on.
All-time great.
So, maybe you spend so much of your life focused on one thing that everything is kind of new and different and weird in other parts of your life. And I get that. I can relate on certain levels. But now a lot of this is very publicly dating a considerably younger person, and the judgmental eyes that come with that, fair or not, and putting yourself out publicly on social media and doing interviews, and at one point agreeing to do a Hard Knock style show before saying, oh, not really, we're not doing it anymore, for NFL Films, and seeing the blurring of the personal and professional lines and applying for copyrights.
Well, look.
Yeah.
Everybody knew there was going to be a circus with hiring a guy like a Bill Belichick.
Or
it sounds like there was
new. Yeah, novel.
It sounded like there was a circus when NFL teams tried to hire Bill Belichick,
right,
or at least considered it.
Yes.
So it's not lost on me that didn't work out. Now he's here. It was clearly a big news story. I think we did a one-off episode talking about it, or at least spent a good chunk of our episode talking about Belichick. It's a big story. It's still a big story. It is just such a contrast now where we're at, as we record this in late April, about to be May, between the Bill Belichick we saw at New England, which was always this beacon of buttoned up, hard-nosed, vanilla football.
It's all just
know your role,
football,
do your job,
do your
highly
job.
Disciplined, right?
Mm-hmm.
This, what we're seeing now, could not be more counter to that.
Patriot way. Yeah.
Could not be more counter to that. Now, to your point, do whatever you want in your personal life. I don't care. But this is also a different circumstance altogether from the types of people that you need to appease and give the warm fuzzies to when you're coaching in the NFL. In the NFL, you've got an owner you got to answer to, right? You've got your players, obviously, you got to answer to, but your source of income is not necessarily, or your source of payment, let's say, for players is not necessarily coming from boosters and NIL funds.
Right.
So if suddenly you now find yourself in a situation where the people, the blue hairs, as Michael put it, people who might be funding some of your NIL operations, if they are a little bit spooked by what's out there in the news, are they going to stop opening up the checkbooks?
Right.
They're going to stop putting money into those funds. It's very weird for us.
Are they moving on to like wait and see, right? Instead of like the enthusiasm that immediately comes with hiring somebody as high profile as Bill Belichick, you're like, how, there were people that were questioning how serious he is about running a college program.
Sure. It's a huge financial commitment by the university. Yeah. If you're going to be putting money into an NIL fund like that, you're not going to get that money back. Right. You probably get some perks, but you're not going to be getting that money back. There's no return on that investment unless North Carolina goes to win the ACC, goes to the big bowl game, makes the playoffs, what have you. So if those people start seeing stuff in the news, if they're put off by it, if suddenly they are having second thoughts about funding this program, who is running this program, you can see how that would be problematic.
Of course.
And I just don't think when we saw Bill Belichick signing up to be the coach at UNC, which is really what it sounds like.
Right.
He signed up for it. He got them on board, and then they made it happen. I just wasn't expecting this. And so there is part of me as well, like Michael, that remains speechless on this whole thing. This is all to say I'm very interested in where the program goes.
Same.
Like, I'm real curious about North Carolina, maybe more so than 98% of the other teams in college football. Yeah. This could go 1,000 different directions. I still think the guy knows football. He won all those Super Bowls. He's not a dum-dum on the football field. It's just like the extracurricular stuff, the off-field stuff now that weirdly has, I think, clouded judgment as to where this program's at.
Yeah, and look, this is what college football at a big place, you're projecting reasons for recruits, for potential assistants, and for transfers to come to the University of North Carolina. And if that reason is Bill Belichick's gravitas and coaching experience and everything, and look at all these things that he's weathered through some fault of his own, through some fault of others while he was at the Patriots, and that he's this elder statesman of the sport, and like what a unique opportunity if you're a transfer outside linebacker or a quarterback recruit coming out of high school, or an up and coming assistant coach to learn under Bill Belichick, and then to see how this program is in the specific limelight that it is in his first offseason, let alone first season, it sort of runs counter to that whole thing.
I don't know, man.
It's
write
wild.
in. Look, solidverbal@gmail.com. Let us know your thoughts on North Carolina football. If nothing more, to the point of Michael's friend with whom it sounds like he had a bit of a disagreement.
Yeah.
There are a lot more people talking about North Carolina football right now.
Sure.
Maybe not for the right reasons, or the reasons that they would prefer as football fans, but Carolina's in the news right now because of Belichick, because of interviews, because of a lot of stuff that has nothing to do with football. Whether or not that pays any dividends, I guess, remains to be seen. At some point here, I'm sure we'll do a more ACC-focused show where we'll talk through schedules and do the preview deal as we get a little bit closer into July. But Dan, man, did not expect this. Did not expect this. Nothing typifies the state of college football more than a situation like this, where you've got big names and big money and just a whole lot of weirdness. That's just where the sport is at right now.
Here's what I want to wade into territory. Maybe it's best left for our bonus show of just the relationship and generational divide that anybody, let alone Bill Belichick, anybody with this kind of age divide, what they face socially.
Let's save that for the bonus episode, shall we?
Let's do that.
All right. Again, you know the drill. Verballers.com, VERBALLERS.com. That's the Patreon. Go out there, ad-free episodes, bonus content. You can hear, I guess, the part 2 of this episode, if you were ever so inclined, if you join up. Discord community, games and such. We will continue talking about Verballers.com. Obviously, the closer we get into the college football season 2025. If nothing more, hit follow, hit subscribe so that you don't miss any future episodes, Dan.
Yes.
Why don't we leave it there? Big thanks to our guest of honor today, Michael Felder. Go and check him out. As always, we will be back next week. More content, more college football content is on the way.
Can't wait.
For that guy, Dan, for myself, Ty, we will talk to you all soon. Stay solid.
Peace.